The massive council chamber stretched across 3 kilometers of gleaming metal and crystal, filled with representatives from dozens of alien species. Ambassador Korthax of the Hegemony stood at the central podium, his 4 red eyes scanning the assembled delegates with obvious contempt. His scaled hands gestured dramatically at the holographic display floating above them all. "Look at this pathetic world," he hissed, his voice carrying easily through the translation devices worn by every council member. The display showed a blue and green planet rotating slowly in space. Sol 3. The humans. 37 years of complete silence. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Councillor Vex of the Triarian Collective leaned forward in her floating chair, her purple tentacles swaying with amusement. "Perhaps they are too frightened to speak with their betters," she suggested, causing several species to laugh openly. The truth was that Earth had become something of a joke among the galaxy's civilizations. For nearly 4 decades, every major power had sent diplomatic missions to the small blue world. They offered trade agreements that would make human leaders wealthy beyond imagination. They extended invitations to join galactic society as a junior partner. They even sent simple greeting messages asking for basic communication. Every single transmission was met with absolute silence. Korthax activated another section of the display, showing recorded footage of human spacecraft. The vessels looked crude compared to galactic standards, ugly metal boxes with primitive fusion drives. Whenever alien ships approached to make contact, the human vessels would immediately change course and flee without saying a word. "They run like scared animals," declared General Vorthal of the Draconian Empire, his massive frame shaking with laughter. "My scouts report human ships scatter the moment they detect our presence." "The question before this council," Korthax continued, "is whether we should continue wasting our time on these mute primitives. Perhaps it is time to classify Earth as a failed civilization and move on to more promising worlds." Deep beneath the city of Sol on Earth, a very different conversation was taking place. Dr. Minho Kim sat in front of a wall of monitors displaying alien communications intercepts. The underground facility hummed with the quiet activity of hundreds of technicians and analysts working around the clock. "Sir, we have another diplomatic transmission from the Hegemony," reported Ari Park, the facility's chief translator. She was young but had spent 15 years learning 17 different alien languages. "Same format as always, trade offers, protection agreements, the usual predator package." Minho nodded without looking away from his screens. "File it with the others. How many species have tried to contact us now?" 4 to 7 different civilizations over the years, Ari replied. Though most messages come from the 12 major powers. What the galaxy did not know was that Earth had been listening to everything. Every diplomatic transmission, every casual conversation between alien crew members, every private military briefing, all of it was recorded, translated, and carefully studied by teams of human analysts. Tai Shin, head of Earth's Defense Intelligence Division, walked over with a tablet full of new reports. "The latest intercepts are disturbing," he said quietly. "The Vorthak Confederation is planning another protective intervention on a world in the Kepler sector." "Let me guess," Minho said grimly. "Another silent world that refused their generous offers." "Exactly. That makes 43 civilizations that went quiet after initial contact with the galactic powers." Tai pulled up historical data on his tablet. "And 43 civilizations that no longer exist." This was Earth's terrible discovery. Every world that had eventually broken its silence and accepted alien contact had been conquered within 10 years. The galaxy's diplomatic missions were actually hunting expeditions, seeking out civilizations advanced enough to be useful but not strong enough to resist conquest. Nari Jiang, their communications expert, looked up from her workstation. "We have movement in the outer system. 3 alien monitoring stations have increased their scanning activity." "They are getting impatient," observed Huan Ko, the facility's behavioral specialist. "Based on their past patterns, I estimate we have perhaps 6 months before they decide to force contact." The irony was not lost on any of them. The galaxy mocked Earth's silence while completely missing the fact that humans had built the most sophisticated intelligence network in known space. Hidden monitoring stations throughout the solar system tracked every alien ship that passed through. Listening posts disguised as space debris intercepted communications across dozens of star systems. Back in the Galactic Council chamber, the debate about Earth's fate continued. Some species argued for patience, believing humans might eventually develop enough to be worth conquering. Others pushed for immediate intervention, claiming that Earth's continued silence was somehow insulting to galactic civilization. "The humans clearly lack the intelligence to understand our superiority," declared Ambassador Zethros of the Crystal Hegemony. Their primitive brains cannot process the honor of serving more advanced species. Or perhaps, suggested Councillor Vex with a cruel smile, they simply need proper motivation to find their voices. The vote was close, but ultimately the Council decided to give Earth one more year of silence. After that, they would send a battle fleet to force communication and begin the conquest process. None of them noticed that their entire debate was being recorded by a tiny human monitoring device hidden in the chamber's structural supports. Within hours, a complete transcript would be sitting on Dr. Minho Kim's desk, translated into perfect Korean. Earth's silence continued, but it was no longer the silence of the ignorant or the afraid. It was the silence of predators studying their prey, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal just how much they had learned while the galaxy laughed at their supposed weakness. Dr. Ari Park rubbed her tired eyes as she stared at the translation matrix on her screen. She had been working for 18 straight hours, but the breakthrough was too important to stop now. Around her, the underground facility buzzed with quiet activity as dozens of analysts worked through the night shift. Minho, you need to see this, she called across the room to Dr. Minho Kim, who was reviewing reports at the main command station. He walked over, carrying a steaming cup of coffee. What did you find? Ari pointed at her screen, which displayed intercepted communications from 3 different alien species. I finished cracking the Vorthak military encryption. Look at these message logs from their fleet commanders. The text scrolled past in neat Korean translation. Minho read silently, his expression growing darker with each line. The messages discussed something called Operation Silent Harvest, a systematic plan to identify and catalog all worlds that refused initial contact. They have done this before, he said quietly. Many times, Ari confirmed. She pulled up another file. I cross-referenced their communications with historical galactic records. Every civilization that maintained radio silence for more than 20 years was eventually visited by something called a protection fleet. Tai Shin looked up from his workstation nearby. How many civilizations are we talking about? 43 confirmed cases over the past 300 years, Ari replied. The pattern is always the same. First comes years of ignored diplomatic contact. Then mounting frustration from the galactic powers. Finally, a military intervention disguised as protective assistance. She brought up a holographic display showing a timeline of galactic conquests. Each entry showed the same progression, silent worlds being offered protection, then being forced to accept it, then disappearing entirely from galactic communications within a decade. The Zelani of Proxima 7, Ari read from her notes. Maintained silence for 31 years. The Hegemony sent a protection fleet in year 32. By year 40, there were no more Zelani transmissions detected anywhere in the galaxy. What happened to them? Asked Nari Jang, who had stopped her own work to listen. According to intercepted Hegemony communications, they were relocated to more suitable worlds where they could contribute better to galactic civilization, Ari said grimly. The Hegemony now uses their home planet as a military training facility. Huan Ko, their behavioral analyst, pulled up psychological profiles of various alien species. The predatory nature was always there, he observed. We just had to learn their languages well enough to see past their diplomatic language. Show him the Triarian files, suggested Jin Lee, who had been quietly reviewing intelligence reports in the corner. Ari switched displays to show communications from the Triarian collective. The Triarians are more direct about their intentions. They refer to silent worlds as unopened packages and discuss the best methods for extracting useful resources without damaging the local population too badly. Resources meaning the people themselves, Minho said, understanding immediately. Exactly. They have detailed studies on which species make the best workers, which ones are suitable for dangerous tasks, and which ones should be eliminated as too troublesome to control. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. For decades, Earth had assumed that alien contact would be beneficial, a chance to join a larger galactic community and share knowledge with advanced civilizations. The reality was far more sinister. There is more, Ari continued. I found communications discussing Earth specifically. The aliens have been studying us too. She brought up a file marked with Earth's galactic designation. The documents showed detailed observations of human behavior, military capabilities, and social structures. The aliens had been watching Earth almost as carefully as Earth had been watching them. According to these reports, the galactic powers view humans as potentially valuable due to our adaptability and technological creativity, Ari explained. However, they also note that humans might be difficult to control due to our aggressive tendencies and independent nature. So they see us as useful but dangerous, Tai summarized. Which means they will not offer us junior partnership like they do with some species, added Nari. They will go straight to conquest and population control. June Park, Earth's Strategic Operations Director, had been quietly reviewing the alien fleet movements for the past month. The timeline matches their historical pattern, he reported. We are approaching the 37-year mark of first contact attempts. Based on previous cases, they will likely move to forced intervention within the next 2 years. What about their internal conflicts? Asked Myung Choi, who specialized in alien political analysis. Can we use their rivalries against them? Ari smiled for the first time that day. That might be our biggest advantage. These species barely tolerate each other. The only thing keeping them from open warfare is their mutual fear of losing access to conquered worlds. She showed them intercepted communications revealing secret negotiations between different alien powers. The hegemony was planning to betray the Triarian Collective. The Draconian Empire was building a secret fleet to challenge hegemony dominance. The Crystal Alliance was secretly supporting rebel movements on conquered worlds. They cooperate only when hunting new prey, Juan observed. Once Earth is conquered, they will immediately begin fighting over how to divide us up. Unless we give them something else to worry about, Minho said thoughtfully. The team worked through the night, analyzing decades of intercepted communications and building a complete picture of galactic politics. What they discovered was a complex web of alliances, betrayals, and power struggles held together only by the constant need to find new worlds to exploit. Earth's silence had given them an incredible advantage. While the aliens assumed humans were too primitive to understand galactic politics, Earth's intelligence services had mapped every relationship, every weakness, and every secret in known space. The galaxy thought Earth was hiding in fear. In reality, Earth was studying its enemies with the patience of a species that understood the value of preparation over haste. The Vorthak War fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system like a collection of metallic predators emerging from the dark. 12 massive dreadnoughts, each one larger than a city, hung motionless against the star field. Their dark hulls bristled with weapon systems that could crack planets in half. Fleet Commander Thexel stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the blue dot that was Earth through the main viewing screen. His 3 hearts beat with anticipation. Finally, after decades of insulting silence, the primitive humans would learn their place in the galaxy. Begin transmission on all human frequencies, he ordered his communications officer. The message that went out was simple and direct, translated into the crude human languages that Vorthak computers had learned from intercepted broadcasts. Primitive species of Sol 3, your silence has insulted the galactic community long enough. You will accept Vorthak protection immediately or face the consequences of your arrogance. On Earth, deep in the Sol Command Center, Jin Li watched the alien fleet through long-range sensors. As Director of Planetary Defense, he had been preparing for this moment for 20 years. The alien ships were exactly where Earth's intelligence had predicted they would appear. Estimated time until they lose patience, he asked calmly. Juan Ko, their behavioral specialist, reviewed psychological profiles of Vorthak commanders on his tablet. Based on their past interventions, Commander Thexel will wait exactly 72 hours for a response. If we maintain silence, he will begin destructive demonstrations on our 73. And if we respond too quickly? They will know we were expecting them, replied Sakim, Earth's newly appointed diplomatic coordinator. The Vorthak view immediate surrender as suspicious. They prefer their prey to show proper fear first. Around them, the command center operated with quiet efficiency. Hundreds of technicians monitored alien communications, tracked fleet movements, and coordinated with hidden defense stations throughout the solar system. Earth's real military capabilities remained completely invisible to the watching aliens. Commander Thexel waited. He sent additional messages demanding immediate response. He ordered his ships to perform intimidating formations that had terrified dozens of previous victims. Through it all, Earth remained absolutely silent. On the second day, he tried a different approach. Humans, we offer you great honor by accepting you into galactic civilization. Your primitive world will be protected and guided by superior beings. This is your final opportunity to respond peacefully. Still nothing. The alien commander began to feel frustrated. Other species had at least sent panicked messages by this point, begging for mercy or trying to negotiate. The complete lack of response from Earth was starting to seem almost insulting. Sir, reported his communications officer, our monitoring stations are detecting normal human activity throughout their system. Radio broadcasts, space traffic, commercial transmissions. They appear to be going about their daily business as if we are not here. Thexel's mandibles clicked with anger. They dare to ignore a Vorthak fleet. Perhaps they are too primitive to understand the threat, suggested his tactical officer. Their technology is barely capable of interplanetary travel. Back on Earth, normal life did indeed continue. Farmers tended their crops. Students attended classes. Workers reported to their jobs. Children played in parks while their parents discussed ordinary concerns like weather and bills and family plans. The alien observers watching from orbit found this behavior baffling. Every other species they had encountered showed obvious signs of panic when confronted by superior force. Mass evacuations, military mobilizations, desperate attempts at communication, something to indicate they understood the danger. Humans just kept living their normal lives. This is wrong, muttered Thexel's intelligence officer as she reviewed reports from their surveillance systems. No species reacts this way to first contact with a battle fleet. Either they are too stupid to understand what is happening, or what? Demanded the commander. Or they were expecting us. On the third day, Thexel decided to provide a demonstration. Target one of their mining stations, he ordered. Something small and unimportant. Show them what Vorthak weapons can do. The energy beam lanced out from his flagship and vaporized a small asteroid mining facility in seconds. The explosion was visible from Earth's surface as a brief new star in the night sky. Still no response from the humans. Growing truly angry now, Thexel ordered the destruction of 2 more human installations, a communication satellite and a small research station orbiting Mars. Each attack was precisely calculated to demonstrate overwhelming force without causing massive casualties. Surely now they will understand, he said to his officers. But Earth's communications remained silent. Human ships continued their regular routes. Ground-based transmissions carried on discussing mundane topics as if nothing had happened. This is impossible, declared the fleet's behavioral specialist. No intelligent species can ignore the destruction of their own facilities. They must be sending responses that we are not detecting. In the Sol Command Center, Earth's leaders watched the alien fleet with calm eyes. Every destroyed installation had been evacuated days earlier, based on precise intelligence about Vorthak tactics. The aliens were following their historical pattern exactly as predicted. They are moving to Phase 2, observed June Park as he monitored alien communications. Tomorrow they will demand direct communication with our leaders. And then? Asked Nari Jang. Then we break our silence, replied Jin Li. But not in the way they expect. The 4th day arrived with no change in human behavior. Thexel was now genuinely confused and angry. His carefully planned intimidation display had produced no results at all. The primitive humans continued to ignore him as if his mighty fleet was nothing more than empty space. Prepare for Phase 2, he ordered grimly. If they will not speak from fear, they will speak from necessity. Unknown to him, every word of his planning sessions was being recorded by hidden human listening devices. Earth knew exactly what was coming next, and they were ready to give the galaxy the surprise of its existence. The 4th day began like all the others, with Commander Thexel staring at the stubborn blue planet that refused to acknowledge his presence. His 3 hearts pounded with frustration as he prepared to send what would be his final diplomatic message. Open channels to all human frequencies, he commanded. This time, make it clear that silence is no longer an option. But before his communications officer could comply, something unprecedented happened. Every monitoring screen on the Vorthak flagship suddenly lit up with incoming signals. Not just 1 or 2 transmissions, but hundreds of them, all broadcasting simultaneously from different points throughout Earth's solar system. Sir, the communications officer stammered, we are receiving responses from everywhere. Commander Thexel leaned forward, expecting to hear the usual panicked pleas for mercy that marked the beginning of every successful conquest. Instead, what came through the speakers made his blood freeze. The message was delivered in perfect Vorthak military dialect, using classified command codes that no outside species should have known. We heard you the first time. We were not interested then. We are not interested now. Leave. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of ship systems. Thexel stared at his communications array as if it had betrayed him. How do they know our military codes? He whispered. Unknown, sir, replied his intelligence officer, her voice shaking. Those codes are changed monthly and distributed only to fleet commanders. Demand an explanation, Thexel ordered. Ask them how long they have been monitoring our transmissions. The response came immediately, this time in the personal dialect of Thexel's home city on Vorthak Prime. The accent was so perfect that it could have come from his own brother. Long enough to know that the last species to accept your protection is now extinct. Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out as alien leaders received messages in their own languages, referencing their most guarded secrets. The Triarian Collective received communications detailing their planned betrayal of the Crystal Alliance. The hegemony heard humans discussing their illegal weapons testing on conquered worlds. The Draconian Empire listened in shock as Earth referenced private conversations between their highest military commanders. In the Seoul Command Center, Myung Choi smiled as she watched the alien reactions through intercepted communications. As Earth's diplomatic liaison, she had spent years preparing for this moment. Phase 1 complete, she announced to the room. All major galactic powers have now received evidence that we have been monitoring their communications for decades. Their response patterns? Asked Jin Lee. Exactly as predicted, replied Huan Ko, reviewing behavioral analysis reports. Shock, confusion, then anger. They will demand to know how we developed such capabilities. And that is when we move to Phase 2, said Sikim, activating her own communication system. Time to address the galaxy directly. The transmission that went out was unlike anything the galaxy had ever received. Instead of coming from Earth's surface, it originated from a hidden facility that the aliens had never detected. Instead of being translated by primitive human computers, it arrived in perfect native languages for 4 to 7 different species simultaneously. Su's image appeared on screens throughout galactic space. She sat calmly at a simple desk, speaking in a voice that carried no fear or desperation. People of the galaxy, Earth has maintained silence not from ignorance or fear, but from wisdom. On the Vorthak flagship, Commander Thexel watched in growing horror as the human continued speaking in flawless Vorthak. We have spent 37 years listening to your communications. We know about Operation Silent Harvest. We know about the 43 civilizations you have conquered and destroyed. We know about your plans to divide humanity among your various empires once you have defeated us. This is impossible, muttered Thexel's tactical officer. No primitive species could develop such intelligence capabilities. We are not primitive, Su continued, as if she could hear his thoughts. We are patient. While you assumed our silence meant weakness, we were studying you. Every diplomatic message you sent was recorded. Every private conversation between your ships was analyzed. Every secret military briefing was translated and filed. She gestured, and data began flowing across alien computer systems throughout the galaxy. Fleet positions, battle plans, secret treaties, evidence of war crimes, 40 years of carefully gathered intelligence was being shared with every species simultaneously. You wonder how we gathered such information, Su said. The answer is simple. Your arrogance blinded you to the obvious. You sent ships to monitor us while broadcasting constantly to each other. You held secret meetings in systems you thought were empty, never checking for hidden listening posts. You treated space around Earth as your private communication network. In the Galactic Council chamber, emergency sessions were being called as species leaders realized their deepest secrets were now public knowledge. Alliances that had existed for centuries crumbled in minutes as evidence of planned betrayals became impossible to deny. Commander Thexel found his voice. What do you want? He transmitted to Earth. Nothing from you, Su replied. But we have a message for the galaxy. Earth proposes new rules for how advanced civilizations interact with developing worlds. No more force protection. No more silent harvest operations. No more conquest disguised as diplomacy. And if we refuse, came the response from multiple alien fleets. Su's smile was cold and patient. Then you will discover what we have been building while you thought we were hiding. All around the solar system, previously invisible installations began powering up. Weapons platforms that had been disguised as asteroids revealed themselves. Defense stations hidden in the shadows of moons activated their systems. Earth had not been cowering in fear for 4 decades, they had been preparing for war. The galaxy that had mocked Earth's silence suddenly realized they had been surrounded by it. The species they had dismissed as mute primitives had been listening, learning, and building while their enemies underestimated them completely. The emergency session of the Galactic Council erupted in chaos as species leaders shouted accusations at each other in dozens of different languages. 40 years of carefully hidden secrets had been exposed in a single day, and ancient alliances were crumbling faster than anyone could control. Ambassador Sikim stood at the center of the massive chamber, completely calm despite the fury surrounding her. She had arrived without fanfare, without guards, without any of the ceremonial displays that usually marked first contact between civilizations. She simply walked to the speaker's podium and waited for silence. "You cannot be here," snarled Ambassador Corthax, his 4 eyes blazing with rage. "This chamber is restricted to recognized galactic civilizations only." "We recognize ourselves," Su replied in perfect hegemony dialect. "That should be sufficient." Councillor Vex of the Triarian Collective slithered forward, her tentacles writhing with agitation. "How did a primitive species develop such advanced intelligence capabilities? It is impossible for your crude technology to have monitored our communications." Su activated a holographic display that filled the air above the council chamber. It showed a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy with thousands of tiny red dots scattered throughout known space. Every dot represents a human listening post. "We have been watching you for 37 years. The silence that followed was complete. Species leaders stared at the display, counting the monitoring stations hidden throughout their own territories. The sheer scope of the human intelligence network was staggering. "This is a fabrication," declared General Vorthal of the Draconian Empire. "No single species could establish such extensive surveillance without being detected." "You were not looking for us," Su explained patiently. "You were looking for military threats, not intelligence operations. Our listening posts were disguised as space debris, hidden in asteroid fields, attached to derelict ships you had forgotten about. You searched for weapons and missed the microphones." Ari Park, Earth's chief xenolinguist, activated another display showing intercepted communications from the past week alone. "We recorded over 2 million individual transmissions in the last 7 days. Military briefings, diplomatic negotiations, personal conversations between crew members, all automatically translated and analyzed by our computer systems." "But why?" asked Elder Zephan of the Crystal Alliance, his crystalline form shimmering with confusion. "Why invest such enormous resources in watching civilizations you refuse to contact?" "Because we learned what happened to civilizations that did make contact," replied Jin Li, Earth's defense director. He brought up historical records showing the 43 silent worlds that had been conquered over the past 3 centuries. Every species that trusted your diplomatic missions was enslaved or eliminated within a decade. The evidence was overwhelming and presented with clinical precision. Population records showing billions of beings disappearing from galactic databases. Communications intercepts revealing the true purposes of protection fleets. Testimony from survivors hidden on remote worlds, describing the systematic destruction of their civilizations. "The melody of Kepler 442, Su continued, reading from her notes. "Population 6 billion when they accepted hegemony protection in 2387. Current population according to your own records, 0. The Melody homeworld is now a military training facility." "They were relocated for their own safety," Corthax protested weakly. "To where?" Su asked. "We searched your databases. There is no record of Melody populations on any world in the galaxy." The council chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. The galactic powers had been systematically committing genocide for centuries, and Earth had documented every crime. June Park, Earth's Strategic Operations Director, stood up to address the assembly. "But the most interesting discovery was not what you did to other species. It was what you planned to do to each other." A new holographic display activated, showing secret communications between the various galactic powers. The hegemony's plans to betray the Triarian Collective. The Draconian Empire's preparations for war against the Crystal Alliance. The Vorthak Confederation's agreements to sell conquered human populations to the highest bidder. "You cooperate only when hunting prey," June observed. "The moment Earth was conquered, you would have begun fighting over how to divide our population among your empires." "This changes nothing," Commander Thexel transmitted from his fleet at the edge of human space. "Earth is still one world against the combined might of the galaxy." "Are we?" asked Su with a slight smile. The holographic display changed again, this time showing real-time positions of every major alien fleet in the galaxy. But now there were additional contacts visible, thousands of objects that had not appeared on galactic sensors before. "While you were debating how to conquer us, we were preparing," Su explained. "Every major shipping lane, every military outpost, every strategic system now contains human assets. We did not build an army, we built a network." Nari Jang, Earth's communications specialist, activated transmitters throughout the galaxy. Suddenly, alien fleets found themselves surrounded by previously invisible human platforms. Automated defense systems powered up from hiding places in asteroid belts and nebulae. Weapons arrays emerged from what had appeared to be empty space. "We offer the galaxy a choice," Su announced. Accept new protocols for contact with developing civilizations, or discover what humanity built while you were not watching. The assembled alien leaders looked at each other with growing alarm. The species they had mocked as primitive had spent 4 decades silently surrounding every major civilization in known space. Your greatest mistake, Su concluded, was assuming that silence meant ignorance. While you talked, we listened. While you planned, we prepared. While you underestimated us, we learned everything we needed to know about you. The galaxy's predators had become the observed, and Earth's long silence finally made perfect sense.